Hello, everyone.
Hola
You
a
folks are
todos.
connecting. Hi, everybody. Good evening. Thanks very much for joining us, taking time out of your
Hola a
evening to
todos,
learn.
gracias por tomarse el tiempo de su tarde para estar con nosotros aquí.
Thanks for taking time out of your evening to learn more about the county's efforts to fund
Gracias por
local
tomarse tiempo
neighborhood improvements
de su
and to get
tarde
your
para
questions
aprender sobre
answered.
las mejorías que está llevando a cabo el condado y para que podamos resolver sus dudas.
Paulina, we're consecutive right now, so you can
Oh,
hold off for just a second.
ok.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your being here. I'd like to introduce Paulina, who's going to assist as we provide instructions for listening to the presentations in Spanish.
Me da gusto que estén aquí. Les voy a presentar a Paulina, quien nos va a ayudar con la interpretación para que puedan escuchar esta presentación en español. Y ahora ella les va a dar las instrucciones para que puedan escuchar esta plática en español.
If you'd like to hear the Spanish audio, click on the interpretation button on the bottom of your screen.
Si quieren escuchar el audio en español, por favor hagan clic en el botón que dice interpretación que se encuentra abajo en su pantalla.
And select Spanish. Give people a moment to do that if they would like to. My name is Rochelle Lewis, and I'm a senior engagement consultant with Civic Mike. With us live from Riverbank City Council chambers is Jose Borrell of Debrief, who's been assisting with community outreach. We've been working with the county to help inform and engage residents about their priorities for improving communities, to provide an understanding of the resulting infrastructure improvement projects that are planned for your community, and to provide an opportunity for you to ask questions. Some of you may have participated in our workshop last fall, and we have some updated information to share with you tonight. But first, I'd like to introduce County Supervisor Buck Condit, who represents District 1, to open tonight's meeting before we get into the rest of the agenda. Supervisor?
Yeah, good evening. It's good to be here. And like you said, my name is Buck Condit. I'm the District 1 Supervisor here in Stanislaus County, in which the Topeka and Santa Fe project lies within. And I'm here this evening to listen to all the questions. And I'm just happy that we're here now at this point and we're discussing it and have more information and to see the timeline. And thanks for being here.
Thanks, Supervisor. Just a quick overview of the agenda. First, we'll hear some background information from County Public Works Department about the county's work to secure the funding needed for community improvements and where we are now. We'll also hear from Paul Klein of the engineering firm Wood Rogers about the infrastructure improvement project descriptions, locations, and timing. And Sarah Maras with NBS Government Finance will talk to us about the research that has been conducted regarding financing the maintenance of these community improvement projects, including the potential formation of an assessment district and the proposed annual assessment amounts for property owners that would include. This meeting will be recorded and shared on civicmike.com/Stanislaus. That's the website where you can find all kinds of information about the work that has happened to date, and a place where you can stay informed on where we go from here. If you haven't visited that site, it's civicmic.com/Stanislaus. You can also learn about next steps as we move forward there. This meeting, along with the slides being presented tonight, will be posted on the site tomorrow, so feel free to visit and share with your neighbors. Just a few ground rules to cover very quickly before we jump in. We plan to keep the meeting to 1 hour, including 15 to 20 minutes of questions. We are going to hold all questions to the end of the presentations. So if you have a question, make a note of it, and we hope we answer a lot of your questions just in the course of the presentation. At the end of the presentations, I will go over how we'll go about answering questions. To keep background noise down, we ask that you keep yourself muted when you're not speaking so everyone can hear what's being presented. If somebody goes off mute who is not speaking, we'll pull them back on so everyone can hear the information being shared. Civic Mike's work is engaging the public, and we're interested in helping the county hear from all residents. And we are committed to ensuring respectful dialogue. So, of course, foul language and personal insults are not acceptable. And we've never had to do this before, but in the event there's bad behavior, that person will be moved by the moderator into a private meeting room on Zoom to gain their composure and allowed to return. And if the behavior continues, that person will be permanently removed from the meeting. Of course, we do not expect this to happen. This looks like a very friendly group, but we say it at the top of every meeting so everyone can be assured that this is a respectful forum. Okay, and with that, let's hear from Danny Mauricio, an engineer with the County Department of Public Works. Danny, it's yours.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. To give you a little bit of background information as to how we got to this point, over the last several years, Stanislaus County has been working to address infrastructure needs within unincorporated developed neighborhoods, where the Board of Supervisors have taken several actions to guide infrastructure improvements, such as prioritizing public health and safety. This has looked like the installation of sewer main lines and potable water systems. In 2021, the Board of Supervisors approved various strategic priorities for the use of $90 million of $107 million in American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, also known as ARPA funding. Of this $90 million, $50 million was assigned to community infrastructure. This prompted the county to perform a public outreach in 2022 to gather feedback from the communities as to how the $50 million should be invested throughout the county. In this outreach effort, the public was also educated on criteria utilized in the Interwest reports, for example, cost of improvements, public benefit, benefits to disadvantaged communities, regional equity, and community support for maintenance. The funding distribution methodology that was approved in August of 2022 was based off the total cost of improvements needed within each district as shown in green. An additional $5.8 million was allocated towards community infrastructure in March of 2023 and was distributed evenly to the 5 districts in February of 2024. In gold, you are able to see the total funding per district. The recommendation on infrastructure projects to be funded was accepted by the board in September of 2022. And at that time, there was still only $50 million being invested in community infrastructure, where staff worked with each supervisor to identify the specific projects. And for this meeting, we are looking at District 1, Topeka, Santa Fe.
Thanks, Danny. We next we'll hear from Paul Klein about the specific improvement projects, the schedule and location and of those projects. Paul, it's all yours.
Thank you and good evening, everybody. Tonight I'll be covering an overview of the improvements that we have that are proposed within the Topeka and Santa Fe pocket area. These improvements are proposed to enhance the pedestrian safety and public health, including improved storm drain facilities to relieve localized flooding. The types of improvements that are proposed for the Topeka Santa Fe area are curb ramps at intersections, new sidewalk, improved roadway sections, curb and gutter, additional street lighting, water and sewer mains and services, and additional fire hydrants. The picture on this slide provides a typical depiction of an improved street with curb and gutter, sidewalk, and drainage improvements. As part of the design process, we are taking into consideration the need to maintain driveway access for residences, preserving existing frontage improvements, such as walls and fences, to the extent that that's feasible to do so. And we'll be minimizing the impacts to existing landscaping where it's practical to do so. The next series of slides depict the extent of improvements that are being contemplated by the project. This first visual shows the water service connections to the existing water mains that are being added within this pocket area. They're shown in blue on this particular graphic. This slide shows the sewer improvements within the pocket area. The improvements include both new sewer main along Topeka and Klaus Road and sewer services extended to the individual lots throughout the area. This slide depicts the drainage improvements. We're proposing the installation of 18-inch diameter mainline drainage along both Topeka and Santa Fe, with a number of catch basin drainage inlets along both streets. The new drainage improvements will connect into an existing 30-inch storm drain that lies within 8th Street. Shown in gray are the proposed surface improvements within the area. The surface improvements will include improved street section, so new paving, curb gutter, and sidewalk. And this slide presents the new streetlight locations shown in yellow. Currently, there are 11 new streetlights that are being proposed for the area. To conclude our portion of the presentation, this slide depicts the current schedule. Environmental clearance and design are well underway and are projected to be complete this summer. The county will bid the work to contractors and award a construction contract by the end of this year. Construction would start shortly thereafter and needs to be complete by the end of 2026. Actual work in the field will proceed at a faster pace once a contractor is selected on site. These are the completion dates that need to be met for compliance with the ARPA funds.
Thank you, Paul. I'd like to turn it over now to Sarah Morris to talk about the research on how these improvements will be maintained going into the future.
Good evening, everyone. With these improvements being constructed with the ARPA funding, there is a need to ask the community to help pay for the ongoing maintenance of a portion of these improvements. And that's what we'll be talking about now. We'll be looking at what improvements will be maintained. That includes street lighting, streets, curbs, gutters, sidewalks, and storm drain. We'll look at a methodology related to the assessment funding mechanism. We'll look at the budget and the anticipated assessment rate, or the amount that each property owner will pay annually to fund this maintenance. And we'll look at the formation process, which includes the county board actions as well as a ballot proceeding. The county cannot implement or charge you for any of these assessments until there is approval from property owners through a ballot process. The slide here shows the location of the improvements. You'll see that that is in line with the information that Paul just shared. It shows the street improvements, the sidewalks, the curb and gutter along those areas, and then the storm drain improvements as well. You'll note that the sewer and water improvements are not included in this analysis. In order to determine assessment amounts for each parcel, first we must identify the improvements to be maintained. Then we determine the maintenance costs annually for the improvements. From there, we identify the parcels that benefit from the maintenance of the improvements. And because we have to comply with the state constitution, we must separate general benefit from special benefit to parcels. Once we separate that special benefit and remove a portion of the cost, we allocate the special benefit to the parcels that benefit, and we calculate the assessments to be levied. This slide shows the overall budget that is required annually to maintain the improvements. You can see that the pavement, there's some street sweeping, the catch basins, which is part of the storm drain system, curb, gutter, and sidewalk, along with the street lights, plus some overhead costs, result in a total annual budget of about $16,000 for maintenance. When we separate out the general benefit component that the county would be required to contribute annually, the total amount that can be assessed to parcels within the district is a little over $13,000. Based on the special benefit proportionality, that means that the assessment rate per special benefit point is $53.03. Note, that is not the rate per parcel, as each parcel's benefit points are determined based on their land use and their size. On average, a single-family residential parcel would be paying a little over $300 per year. This is an assessment that's included on the annual property tax bill. So it would be part of the amount that you already are paying with your property taxes. It would be on that bill each year. And if you have a mortgage and your property taxes are paid through your mortgage, you would just pay a little bit more each month in order to accommodate this amount. The average amount for the multifamily residential property per parcel, this is not per unit or per home, is a little more than $1,200. The average amount for the commercial property is $559, and the average per parcel for mixed-use property is $954. And we'll show you in just a moment, Rochelle will show you where you can find the specific information regarding the assessment that was calculated for your individual property. Next steps in this process involve you all in the community as property owners. There is a report and a series of resolutions that would be presented to the County Board of Supervisors. And within that process, property owners will have an opportunity to cast a ballot. That ballot is weighted according to the assessment amount of each parcel, and you'll have the opportunity to cast your ballot in favor or in opposition. The ballots will be tabulated or counted, and if the total assessment amount of ballots returned in opposition is greater than the total assessment amount of ballots returned in favor, a majority protest would exist and the assessment district will be abandoned. If the opposite is true, if the amount in favor is greater than the amount in opposition, then the assessment district may be formed and the assessment would be added to the next succeeding property tax bill. This is the tentative schedule for those next steps. We're looking at a board meeting on June 25th to initiate the proceedings. On July 16th, the board would consider the resolution of intention to form the assessment district and preliminarily approve the engineer's report. Following that July 16th meeting, ballots would be mailed to every property owner within the assessment district. And on September 7th, those ballots would be tabulated following the close of a public hearing on this matter. If the ballot proceeding is successful, a resolution declaring the results of the ballot proceeding and ordering the formation would be considered. If it is unsuccessful, a resolution declaring results and abandoning the proceedings would be considered by the board.
All right. Thank you so much, Sarah. At this time, we'd like to, and John, I'd like to ask you to pull up our civicmic.com/Stanislaus webpage so we can demonstrate how folks can go about finding their proposed assessment amount, annual assessment amount. So this is our CivicMic webpage. That's what you see is a tab at the very top says community map. If you click on that, you will see a list of communities in that little box, and you'll click on yours, Topeka, Santa Fe. And then you can enter your property address. You'll see there's a little search icon there, like a magnifying glass, and you can enter your property address. Here, I think John is just going to pull an existing property up, but this is what you will see if you enter your property address. There's a lot of information about your parcel, and then you'll see at the very bottom, proposed annual assessment amount. In this case, as Sarah mentioned, it's right in that average. It's $309.16 for this particular property. We will also put these instructions on the website. Obviously, this entire presentation, the video will all be on the website if you want to watch it again for any details you may have missed the first time. The slides will be on the website as well. So it's really a great central place to go. And if you're not subscribed, please do subscribe. So I think we can move to our closing slides now as we move into questions from folks. So we're going to handle questions a little bit differently in terms of our translation, and we're going to move Paulina into our meeting so that we will have consecutive translation if as needed as each question gets asked and answered. If you have a question, we'll go between those who are online, those who called in, and
Dar turno a los que están en línea.
we're in consecutive translation, or we're in, consecutive translation now, Pauline. We'll go those who called in and those who are in person at the watch event in the council chambers with the assistance of Jose.
Y le vamos a también dar oportunidad a aquellos que estén en línea y los que estén en persona con la asistencia de José.
So we would really appreciate you keeping to just one question at a time so our translator can keep up.
Y les agradeceríamos mucho que se refieran a nada más una pregunta por persona para que nuestra intérprete pueda mantenerse al tanto e interpretar para ustedes.
If you are online and you have a question, you can go to the bottom of your screen and click on the reactions button and click on the raise hand icon.
Si están en línea, abajo en su pantalla pueden hacer clic en el botón de reacciones y para levantar la mano y hacer su pregunta.
If you have another question, please just ask that first question and we'll get back to you once we hear other questions so we can hope to get everyone's questions answered.
Y si tienen otra pregunta, por favor hagan primero su primera pregunta y esperamos poder regresar a ustedes después de que hayamos escuchado a todos los demás y así esperamos darle una oportunidad a todos.
Finally, we ask that you express your personal views and not those views of others.
Y por último, les pedimos que por favor expresen su opinión personal, no la de los otros.
Okay. Are there any questions anybody would like to ask at this time?
Bien, ¿hay preguntas? ¿Alguien quiere hacer preguntas en este momento?
Not seeing any hands raised.
No veo ninguna mano levantada.
Jose, do you have any questions from any of the folks in the room?
José, ¿hay alguna pregunta de alguien que esté ahí en el cuarto?
Yes, we have a question over here.
Yeah, my name's Tim Fallenkamp. I live at 3830 Topeka. How many parcels are involved in this voting total on Santa Fe and Topeka?
Y esta persona pregunta que cuántas parcelas serán involucradas en los votos en Santa Fe y Topeka.
There are approximately 35 parcels. John, if you go back to the map of improvements, you can see the parcels that are included.
Aproximadamente son 35 parcelas y van a regresar al mapa donde se puedan ver las parcelas que están incluidas.
Thank you, Sarah. Any
Gracias,
other
Sara.
questions?
¿Otra pregunta?
Any other questions in the room, Jose?
¿Hay otra pregunta en el cuarto, José?
He's moving around. He's asking people.
We have,
I live at 3956 Santa Fe Street. And I remember from the last meeting, if I remember right, wasn't the road going to be like 30 foot wide?
Si no mal recuerdo de la última junta, ¿cuánto iba a medir? ¿Cuál iban a ser las medidas?
Yeah, either Danny or Paul like to answer that question?
Or Alan, if you have that offhand. I don't have the width offhand, the cross section.
Alan looks like he's checking, and just so you know, Alan, you are muted.
Yes, so Santa Fe Street will be a little over 30 feet wide.
Bien, la calle Santa Fe va a ser un poquito más de 35 pies de ancho.
Thanks, Alan.
Gracias, Alan.
Rochelle, I just received a question in chat.
Great.
The total population that's allowed to vote.
All of the property owners within the boundary of the assessment district will be allowed to submit a ballot. That includes all of the properties that you see on the map here, with the exception of the 3 parcels that are on 8th Street, south of Santa Fe, that do not front the improvements.
La pregunta es el total de las parcelas que serán incluidas en la votación, y la respuesta es son todas aquellas parcelas que estén incluidas en el mapa, con excepción de las 3 parcelas que se encuentran en la calle 8, en la calle Santa Fe, y son las que no colindan con los límites de estas mejorías.
Thank you, Sarah.
Okay, the parcel you just spoke of, is that the Riverside Auto Records, the car lot, and the tortilla factory? They don't get to vote?
Y pregunta que si estas propiedades son el establecimiento para lavar autos y la tortillería, que ellos no podrán participar en la votación.
No, those parcels are up north of Topeka and along the highway, not on 8th Street.
Y comentan que no, porque estas calles se encuentran más al norte de la calle Topeka y no en la calle 8.
Yeah, I live right across the street from the car lot and a little bit down the street from the wrecking yard and the tortilla factories on the corner. The car lot and the wrecking yard use Topeka Street constantly as their entrance. Well, I know the car lot does. They use that constantly as their entrance to their business. I know it's a multi-use business residential area, but I see that the car lot and the wrecking yard both benefit from this improvement. And I see that their cost in paying the money each year that we will have to pay, that they get a big benefit, but they don't pay very much. I mean, looks like people like myself will pay right around 300 or whatever it was. The wrecking yard, the car lot in La Perla, they pay only maybe $200 or $300 more. I don't understand if they're getting their commercial business. To me, they're not paying their fair share because they don't live there as we do, and they're getting all this benefit, but they're not paying as much as I am, basically per square foot of lot or whatever, how you figure it out. But I don't think they should be able to use Topeka Street as part of their business, entering and exiting as part of their business when their main address is on the highway. And
Okay,
so
the question has to do with, I'm going to have to stop you so I can try to summarize your question for our translator. The question is about how the assessment amounts are calculated, and the meeting participants' opinion. I'm sorry, sir, I didn't get your name from you, so I don't.
Tim Fallenkamp.
What is it?
Tim Fallenkamp, 3830.
Thank you, Tim. Yeah, Tim's question he has an opinion about the benefit some of the commercial properties have versus residential properties, and a question about why they're not paying more than what they might be proposed to pay.
Y en resumidas cuentas, la pregunta de este vecino es, él da su opinión sobre los beneficios que entre las propiedades comerciales y residenciales y por qué ellos no van a pagar, su cuota no va a ser más elevada si también obtienen grandes beneficios y no viven aquí.
So Sarah, I'll ask you to address that question.
The commercial property is included in the assessment district and they are paying into the assessment. The business on the corner, on the top left corner of that map, for example, their assessment is $954 per year.
Can you stop there for Paulina? Thanks.
Sara comenta que estas propiedades comerciales sí están incluidas en el cálculo de cuotas y, por ejemplo, este negocio que se encuentra en la parte superior izquierda, su cuota es de $954 al año.
Did you have anything in addition, Sarah? Sorry, I didn't know if you were finished.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Unless there's additional questions.
Thank you. If you have a question, please state your name.
Si tienen una pregunta, por favor, digan su nombre y levanten su mano.
Raise your hand, I will call on you,
We have,
and then you can unmute.
Buck Condit would like to speak.
And Supervisor.
Rochelle, could we go back to the maintenance cost of the assessment?
Le pide que regresen a las cuotas de mantenimiento.
So the slide from Sarah's presentation.
Yes, please.
La parte de la presentación de Sara.
It had, in particular, the one about the catch basins.
En particular la de las coladeras.
I think it's one further
I think
back.
we keep going back, John.
Right there.
There you go.
It's the 4165. If the and I'm going blank on the term, the stormwater, if it's going to be connected to the stormwater line, there are not going to be any catch basins. Am I wrong on that?
La parte de 4165 sobre el drenaje pluvial, si van a estar conectados a la línea principal, no van a tener coladeras, ¿verdad? ¿Estoy en lo correcto?
There are 17 catch basins that are part of the improvements in this district.
So we're talking about the storm drain, that catch basin, not one that's going to collect the water where it's going to sit. Correct?
Correct.
Hay 17 coladeras que son parte de las mejorías de este distrito. Son parte del drenaje y recolección de agua pluvial.
Supervisor, these are the drainage inlet catch basins that will be the curb cuts and connected to the storm drain system.
Okay. When you were talking
Oh,
catch basin,
Supervisor, sorry to interrupt. Let's let Paulina translate that before you follow up.
absolutely. Sorry.
Supervisor,
Super good.
estas coladeras y drenajes son parte, son parte del sistema de aguas pluviales y recolección.
I was thinking one big catch basin where the storm water was going to go to. So my bad on that interpretation.
Una disculpa, yo lo interpreté mal. Yo más bien estaba pensando en una gran coladera donde se dirigiera todo el drenaje, más bien.
Perfect use for Q&A.
Qué buen
Thank you.
uso de las preguntas.
have a
Other
question over here.
questions?
No, I was just wondering if this project was going to be between 8th and Claus Road, because we live on 3933 Santa Fe.
Okay.
Pregunto si este proyecto va a contemplar la calle 39, porque yo vivo en la 39 y Santa Fe.
The project would include Santa Fe between 8th and Claus Road.
El proyecto incluirá Santa Fe entre la 8 y la calle Close Road.
Can you signify with the mouse which ones aren't incorporated?
¿Puedes señalar con el mouse cuáles son las que están incorporadas?
Esas son.
It's the 3 parcels that don't front the improvements on Santa Fe, that front 8th Street.
Son estas 3 parcelas que colindan con el área de mejorías de la calle.
Okay.
Other questions?
¿Otra pregunta?
We've got one more question. Some more questions over
They're
here.
moving around.
Okay, I see that sewer is gonna be included in this improvement. Is everyone gonna be required to hook up to the sewer system? Because right now, everybody that I'm aware of, they're on a septic tank. And I don't know, are we gonna have to pay to hook up to the sewer? What's the cost gonna be? Or is that gonna be included in the cost of the improvement for each individual property owner to hook up to the sewer? And
I'm going to stop you right there so our translator can try to translate. And the question had to do with the cost of hooking up from septic to sewer tanks and how would that work in connection with the sewer improvements.
Mi pregunta es, veo que el sistema de alcantarillado está incluido en estas mejorías y la pregunta es si todos deberán de conectarse del tanque séptico a el sistema de alcantarillado y cuáles serán los costos y si están incluidos en las cuotas de mantenimiento.
And who would like to answer this question?
¿Quién va a querer responder esta pregunta?
I think
Danny.
Chris or
Danny, do
Danny.
you want to, or I can, either?
Puede ser Dani o yo.
You can go for it, Chris. I saw you raise your hand.
Yeah, there there will be no hard requirement to connect to the sewer system once it's constructed.
Okay, can you stop for a second there? Thanks.
No va a haber requerimiento para conectarse al sistema de alcantarillado una vez que sea construido.
But when folks have failing septic systems, new septic systems will not be permitted by the county or the city. The resident will then be required to connect to the gravity sewer system.
Pero una vez que las personas tengan sistemas sépticos que estén fallando, no se les permitirá instalar un nuevo sistema séptico. Tendrán que conectarse al residencial.
I see a hand up.
Veo una mano arriba.
Debbie, 3956 Santa Fe. And I'm wondering how much would it cost then if we had a problem, we had to connect later?
Y ahora mi pregunta es ¿cuánto costaría en caso de que nos tuviéramos que conectar en un futuro?
I'm not certain we have Riverbank's connection rate. And does Paul, do you have it?
I don't, but it is
Okay.
something we can look up and
Okay.
maybe provide, and they can add it to the website.
Okay.
En este momento no cuentan con la tarifa de Riverbank, sin embargo, la van a incluir para que puedan acceder a ella.
So for the gentleman who asked that last question, if you would please go to our website, or Jose can assist you with that, to see the way to connect directly with us and ask a question, then we'll make sure to get that information to you.
Y
No
el
worries.
caballero que hizo esta última pregunta, por favor, diríjase a nuestro sitio web. José le puede asistir con eso. Seleccione contactarse directamente con nosotros y con gusto le daremos esa respuesta, esa información.
Do we have any more questions on that side? Because I still have more questions.
Hay más preguntas de ese lado porque yo por aquí tengo más.
No question. I don't see any hands raised online.
No veo más manos levantadas en línea.
That's your question.
Are we going to be part of the city of Riverbank now, or are we still going to be an island?
¿Ahora seremos parte de Riverbank o seguiremos siendo una isla?
Danny or Chris?
Yeah,
would like to take that?
this neighborhood will still be a county community with the intent that the city will annex it eventually. There's no timing on the annexation yet.
Este vecindario seguirá siendo parte de la comunidad del condado con la intención de, en alguna fecha que todavía no ha sido establecida, anexarse.
And I see Luis Uribe's hand up. Luis, if you'd like to ask a question, unmute yourself. There you go.
Veo la mano de Luis Ribes arriba. Por favor, abra su micrófono para hacer su pregunta.
Thank you. This is Luis, council member for the city. This improvement area is right next to my district. The question for the sewer connection, I believe if there is a stub out, I believe it's $400 to $600. If there's no stub out, I believe it's about $1,800. But we can get you those numbers tomorrow if you'd like.
Yo soy soy miembro parte del comité. Esta área se encuentra al lado de mi distrito y en cuanto al alcantarillado, si hay conexión o no, está alrededor de $400, si no, 1,800, pero ese es un número que mañana con gusto se los podemos dar.
And for clarification, we will be providing the stub outs, so it should be the lower end of that cost that was clarified.
Y nada más para aclarar, nosotros sí tenemos intencionado proveer esto, entonces sería el costo más bajo.
Thank you, and thank you, council member, for joining us.
Gracias y gracias al miembro del consejo por unirse.
Okay, can you explain stub out? Most of us here probably don't understand what that means.
¿Y puede
So
por favor
the-
explicar qué es eso? La mayoría de nosotros no sabemos qué es eso.
The service lateral from the sewer line in the street will be extended to beyond property line. So that in the future, you'll be able to connect without having to rip up the street.
Es el servicio lateral que se encuentra conectado al alcantarillado. Se va a extender para que en un futuro los propietarios se puedan conectar sin necesidad de hacer hoyos en la calle, en el pavimento.
Thank you. Do you see
Yeah,
another
I
hand
went
up?
to- I went to the city hall and I asked them about the people that didn't want the annex to the city. And he told me, he says, as long as people don't want to be annexed, then you won't be annexed.
Okay, thank you.
Yo pregunté qué pasa si la gente no se quiere anexar a la ciudad. Y me comentaron que mientras la gente no quiera ser anexada, no serán anexados.
More questions on this side.
Más preguntas de este lado.
Yeah, I know Santa Fe is way wider than Topeka. Basically, Topeka is a one-lane road. I want to know, are you going to take part of my front yard away when you redo the streets and put in the gutters and the sidewalks, or is my front yard safe from this new improvement?
La calle Santa Fe es más ancha que la de Topeka y mi pregunta es si para hacer esto van a tomar parte de mi jardín que está de frente cuando hagan estas mejorías de de las alcantarillas, de las banquetas, de las orillas, y mi jardín va a estar seguro cuando hagan esto.
So right now, the intent of the improvements is to stay within the right of way. We do know in some cases, folks have extended their improvements out into the right of way. So in those cases, we would be adjusting that, but we will. The intent is not to take any private property for the improvements along that roadway.
Ahorita la intención es quedarnos dentro de los límites. Hay casos en donde las personas se han extendido, pero en esos casos nos ajustaremos. La intención es respetar la propiedad privada de las personas.
How many curb cuts can you have?
¿Cuántas orillas y alcantarillas se pueden tener?
I have
As for,
I have a building in the back of my yard and a garage. I have the garage on one side of my property and a building in the back of my property. So I was wondering I was wondering how many curb cuts you have and how does it cost for a curb cut?
¿Cuántas guarniciones y alcantarillas se pueden tener? Ya que yo tengo un edificio atrás en mi jardín y también tengo un garage al costado de mi propiedad y atrás un edificio, y quiero preguntar cuántos se pueden tener y cuál sería el costo.
So within this area, we will not be doing a vertical curb. It'll be a rolled curb. So they're not individual curb cuts per se. It's a curb that you can drive over. So you should be fine with having access at the locations that you need.
Okay, thank you.
En estas áreas no planeamos hacer un alcantarillado vertical, no individual, lo que significa que fácilmente puede darle la vuelta y no va a obstruir su acceso.
The right of way you were speaking of, where does that extend from? The center out onto each side of the street? And how far is that? Do you have feet that you can numbers you can give the homeowner from the center of the street? And who determines where the center of the street is? Because on my street,
Oh, I'm going to hold you up just 1 second so we can allow our translator to catch up with you.
¿De dónde parte el centro de la calle que ustedes hablan? ¿Cuántos pies? ¿Qué tan lejos va a llegar? Porque hasta donde tengo entendido, ¿quiénes son las personas que determinan estos números?
So in all cases, the right-of-way is defined. It is mapped. It is not solely based on center line of street.
En todos los casos, los accesos están definidos en el mapa y no se basan en el centro de la calle.
So it does vary depending on how the improvements were done in the area. And as we continue forward with the design, I think the intent is that further detail on those improvements will be posted online so that you can get a better view specific to the individual properties as we advance the design.
Y depende de las mejorías del área que se han hecho y conforme vayamos avanzando con el diseño, la intención es postear en línea para que tengan una mejor visión de cómo va a afectar específicamente a cada propiedad.
so the rolled curb or the rolled gutter or whatever sidewalk next to the sidewalk, that right now in front of my house, I have a big storm drain. Across the street, there's another storm drain. Down the street towards 8th Street, there's another storm drain that was put in years ago because the highway is 4 feet higher than Topeka Street. All that water from the wrecking yard, the car lot, all runs to Topeka Street, and it
I'm
all
going to
drains.
stop you right there. I'm going to stop you right there so our translator can catch up.
Entonces la guarnición antigua, la que está al lado de mi casa, porque yo ahorita hay una enfrente de mi casa y enfrente de mi casa también hay un drenaje pluvial. Después se puso otro que se han puesto conforme pasan los años, ya que la calle es más alta que la calle Topeka.
So all the existing improvements within the area have been surveyed. So we have accurate base maps.
Bueno, todas las mejorías ya existentes, se ha hecho una investigación en el área.
So we are using that information to design the improvements. So where there are changes or differentials in elevation, those are all being taken into consideration as part of the design.
Y usamos toda esa información como parte del diseño. Entonces, todos esos cambios y diferencias de altura se toman como parte del diseño.
So
Thank
then
you.
there's no guarantee or assurance that when you are done, that the water's not going to be running over the sidewalk into my front yard, flooding my house, because as it is right now, that's not happening because of the new drains that I don't know if the county or the city, I don't think the city put them in. I think the county and the state might have put them in years ago. But
I'm gonna
as right now,
stop you.
it's
I'm
good.
gonna stop you right there. Paulina, were you able to get that?
Entonces, no hay garantía o no nos aseguran que el agua no se vaya a meter a mi jardín frontal y lo vaya a inundar. Porque ahorita hay un drenaje nuevo que lo instaló hace unos años, creo que fue la ciudad, el condado, el estado, no recuerdo.
So a drainage analysis is being done to make sure that the drainage within the area is picked up and can be contained within the gutters and the storm drain system.
Se ha analizado el drenaje para estar seguros que pueda ser contenido por el nuevo sistema de drenaje y recolección pluvial.
Is there any way
Thank
that
you.
the PG&E will underground their utilities along Topeka Street there at that section?
¿Hay alguna probabilidad de que la compañía de gas y electricidad baje su cuota sobre esa área?
That currently is not contemplated to have PG&E do that.
Actualmente eso no ha sido contemplado aún, considerar a la compañía de gas y luz de electricidad.
I get my taxes, or I'm 100% disabled from the military, and I get a lower tax rate. Is that going to continue if we're forced to go into the city?
Yo, mis impuestos, yo soy una persona 100% discapacitada de la milicia y por lo tanto mi tarifa de impuestos es más baja. ¿Esto continuará siendo así en caso de que seamos anexados?
Who would like to take this question?
¿Quién le gustaría contestar esta pregunta?
I can.
Yo puedo.
The assessment amount that you would pay for these improvements is separate from the amount that you would pay for your general property taxes.
La cuota, el número de cuota que usted pagaría por estas mejorías está separada de los impuestos generales sobre la propiedad.
And we are just 3 minutes away from 7 o'clock, and we had scheduled this meeting for an hour. So are there any last questions? And I want to say, if you have more questions after the meeting, or if you think of additional questions later, please do. And maybe John, you can put up our closing slides now with the contact information for civicmike.com and reach out to us.
Y bueno, faltan 3 minutos para las 7 y tenemos planeado de que esta junta durara 1 hora. Entonces, si tienen más preguntas, nos las pueden enviar después. En este momento, John va a poner en pantalla nuestra información de contacto de Civic Mike para que nos puedan contactar y hacernos sus preguntas que tienen.
Okay, I live at 3956 Santa Fe, and we have water boxes now. Are those going to be moved, or will they stay in the same spot, or for the sidewalks and curbs?
Yo soy propietario y ahorita tenemos cajas de agua. ¿Estas permanecerán en el mismo lugar o las van a mover?
If they are existing, most likely they will stay where they are. If they're in conflict based on an elevation, then we may need to adjust them.
Si son ya existentes, lo más probable es que se queden donde están. Si hay un conflicto con la elevación, probablemente tendríamos que hacer unos ajustes.
I'll add to that and just say I'm looking at the plans now, and they do call out to have some existing water meters relocated behind the proposed sidewalk. So some will be relocated.
Right.
Estoy viendo los planos en este momento y sí se establece que algunos de los medidores de agua se muevan. Entonces, sí, algunos sí tendrán que ser reubicados.
And I have one final question online, and then we'll close the meeting. And that is, we'll have these types of improvements shown to improve safety in other communities. Who would like to take that question?
Tengo una última pregunta antes de que terminemos con esta junta. ¿Saben si este tipo de mejorías han tenido resultados en la seguridad en otras comunidades?
I'll just add that part of the improvements in this neighborhood will be street lighting and sidewalks, which will definitely promote safe walking throughout the neighborhood and connecting to the rest of the community.
Nada más voy a añadir que parte de estas mejorías incluye alumbrado y banquetas, lo cual va a conectar mejor este vecindario con la otra parte de la comunidad.
Thank you. And at this time, I'd like to just thank everybody once more, all of our participants, all of our presenters, our translator, and all of you for participating and taking time out of your evening tonight.
Y bueno, en este momento me gustaría agradecerle de nuevo a todas las personas que estuvieron aquí presentes, a los presentadores, al intérprete y a cada uno de ustedes por tomarse el tiempo de su tarde para estar con nosotros.
Can we follow up with
And
one last question?
You
My
can,
apologies.
you can see the contact information on the screen. contact@civicmike.com is the email address to send any additional questions.
Y pueden ver en pantalla nuestra información de contacto, que es contact@civicmike.com, donde nos pueden enviar sus preguntas adicionales.
And we're happy to talk to you by phone. There is our phone number is 800-676-7516.
Y con gusto podemos hablar con ustedes por teléfono. Nuestro teléfono es 800-676-7516.
Any final comments from any of our presenters before we
¿Hay
sign off?
algún comentario final por parte de nuestros presentadores antes de que terminemos esto?
Okay, well, thanks everybody very much.
Bueno,
And
pues
hope you have
muchas
a good
gracias
night.
a todos y que tengan buena noche.
Quick question, is there a follow-up meeting that's going to take place, or would that be through the Board of Supervisors in their selection when those tax districts get discussed?
Tengo una pregunta, ¿va a haber una junta de seguimiento o eso lo decidirá el comité de supervisores cuando seleccionen esas propiedades?
We do not currently have any additional meetings scheduled at this time, but there will certainly be opportunities for public input through the process that the Board of Supervisors would undertake to form an assessment district.
Actualmente no tenemos ninguna junta programada, pero es cierto que se tomará en cuenta la retroalimentación del público y el comité de supervisores lo tomará en cuenta para hacer el comité.
And county staff is always here to answer any additional questions as well.
Y también el staff del condado está aquí para resolver sus dudas y preguntas.
Absolutely. If anybody needs to contact my office about any other further questions, they are welcome to do so.
Claro, por supuesto, todos son bienvenidos de contactar a mi oficina para que les aclaremos sus dudas y preguntas.
And in addition, Civic Mike is working directly with county staff and leadership. So if you have a question that you send to us and it's for those folks, we're happy to get it to them for you.
Y como recordatorio, Civic Mike trabaja junto con el staff del condado, entonces si nos mandan una pregunta que va dirigida a ellos, nosotros con mucho gusto se las haremos llegar.
Thanks very much, everybody. Have a good
Muchas
night.
gracias a todos y que tengan buena noche.